Derrick Lewis is a prized mixed martial artist who fights currently in the UFC. He's well known for being a great fighter and has garnered lots of attention throughout his fighting career. With this, he has gathered a lot of money and his lifestyle has changed. What does he do with his time? And what does he do with his money? On today's list, we're going over Derrick Lewis's rich lifestyle and how he spends his millions. But before we get into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications on so you don't miss any of the new videos that we post. Now onto the list. First up, net worth. The first part of our list is going to cover the fighter's net worth. How much money does he make? Well, according to Celebrity Net Worth, Derrick Lewis's estimated net worth is $1.5 million. However, we can assume his net worth will increase after his latest wins and all the attention he's getting from his recently announced fight. This fighter makes a lot of money. It's not as much as some fighters, but it's growing and it's going to be something. His net worth is what his lifestyle is based around. It's how he affords what he does. This sort of money is something that changes people's lives. Next up, endorsements. Usually fighters have lots of endorsements to fund their lavish lifestyle and all the training costs that they need throughout their camps before an MMA fight. But someone like Derrick Lewis only has one endorsement. Back in 2018, the fighter announced he was endorsed with Popeye's Louisiana Chicken. In the wake of UFC 230, they revealed that if Derrick won his fight, they would offer free food on the night. The fighter also revealed that he'll get free food at the location for the rest of his life. It's definitely unconventional, but it makes this fighter stand out even more amongst the rest. It's hilarious. Anyways, next up, training. In his recent fights, we found out that this fighter's training lifestyle is much different from other athletes in the sport. He said in an interview post-fight with popular commentator and podcast host Joe Rogan that he doesn't lift weights or spar before his matches. This was surprising to lots of his fans and other fighters, but just shows this man's power and strength in the MMA scene. Obviously, this fighter does train, and it's a part of his rich lifestyle, but he doesn't do it as much as a normal MMA fighter would. It's really surprising to hear, and it's a defining characteristic for this athlete. Again, it makes him stand out. Next up, home. Though we don't know anything about this fighter's home like we do with other fighters, we do know what state he lives in. He lives in Cypress, Texas with his family. He seems to live a pretty humble life and doesn't spend his millions on lots of outlandish things. Of course, everybody knows him to be a pretty down-to-earth guy, salt of the earth, just like a lot of other athletes. And in this sport, however, we're used to fighters flexing their wealth, but he stands out and shows that not everyone wants or needs to live like that. Next up, family. The fighter is a real family man. He married his longtime girlfriend in Honolulu, Hawaii back in 2017 and has 2 sons and 1 daughter. You can assume most of his money goes into his small family and he spends a lot of time with them. They're always at his matches and you can see many photos of them all in the ring together when he wins his matches and titles. We celebrate the fact that he's able to spend so much time with his family, which is very difficult to do as an MMA fighter. Next up, investments. Derrick Lewis doesn't seem like a man who really cares about his money. He's not the guy to flex his wealth and spends lots of it. From what we know, he doesn't have any investments in anything. You can assume that he's smart with his money, but we really don't know what he does with it. Information on this fighter is quite limited, which shows us how humble he really is. As you'll find out later on this list, it makes a lot of sense how he is in real life. Next up on the list, gym. Well, as we know, Derrick Lewis doesn't lift weights or even spar with people. His reasoning for this is it's hard to find people in his weight class and that he can trust, which makes a lot of sense considering his history. He knows that his conditioning is an issue, so he works on that as much as possible, but he really doesn't go too hard in the gym. He even says he needs to start staying an extra hour or 2. I wonder what his reasoning for not being in the gym is. He seems very relaxed when it comes to his gym work and his training, but he's serious about the fight. Regardless, what work he does put in does show in the octagon. Next up, diet and social media. The fighter has said on multiple occasions that he eats well before his fights. He eats chicken breasts, white rice, grains, smoothies, and other stuff like that. He also makes sure to drink plenty of water. He doesn't drink any juice or sodas and watches his sodium intake. This is all pretty standard for a fighter of his caliber. He also doesn't seem to care about his social media. When he knocked out Volkov during UFC 229, he doubled his social media overnight. He then later said in an interview with Joe Rogan that he doesn't really care about social media at all. Was that when he said his "we're hot"? Yeah? Okay. Next up, turning his life around. During an interview on the Joe Rogan podcast, the fighter spoke about his past and being in prison for assault. He has really turned his life around since he left his past behind and has become someone people love and care about. He has raised an amazing family and became an amazing fighter. His lifestyle reflects his past as he's very humble about where he come from and seems to cherish what he has now. You can really see this come through in his interviews as he really cares about what he's talking about with someone like Joe Rogan. And finally, how does he spend his millions? 10th off the list. How does the fighter spend his money? Well, surprisingly, we don't know what this fighter does with his wealth. We said that a couple times, I know. Unlike other fighters in the sport of boxing or MMA, he doesn't flex. He's no Conor McGregor or Floyd Mayweather in that degree. This man is humble to his core and cherishes what he has. It's really great to see someone like him fight and talk about his life. Maybe he has all his money in a tax-free savings account. Who knows? Bless his soul. Hopefully we see more people and fighters like him enter the spotlight. We really need it in the fighting scene right now. And that's our list. If there's one thing more impressive than the highlight reel knockouts, that of UFC heavyweight contender Derrick Lewis, it's the Black Beast post-fight interviews. Before the main event and the chaos that followed of UFC 229, Lewis gave one of the best post-fight interviews of all time, just moments after delivering a stunning come-from-behind knockout, dropping Alexander Volkov with 15 seconds left in the final round out cold. Overnight, Lewis went from just under 500k followers on Instagram to 1.3 million, and counting, by the way, make him even more of a draw. And just 2 days later, the UFC offered him a title shot against current light heavyweight and heavyweight champ Daniel DC Cormier at Madison Square Garden. The guy is something to behold. He shows up, he fights, he's incredible. He is who he is on the mic in post-fight interviews and in interviews, so that's honestly really the only place we can get information about this man. He's really secret about his life and what he does with his millions. So interviews, again, are a great place to get some snippets into his life. He and Joe Rogan went into some details about his life, and the podcast was quite something. People wanted to learn more about him and who he is, but he doesn't seem to want to tell. We just don't know too much information about him, but again, on that podcast, you'll find out a lot of details, like him going to jail. Not necessarily about wealth, though. He began boxing starting under legendary fighter George Foreman. Lewis was introduced to MMA by a friend. In 2010, after a 4-1 amateur record, he was signed by Bellator. He won his first world champion belt at Legacy FC. After a 6-0 record at the promotion, he was signed by the UFC and made his debut on the 19th of April 2014 against Jack May. He has really had an interesting history compared to a lot of other fighters. He's had to fight even harder than most due to his check past as well. Derrick Lewis is really a testament to hard work pays off. People love this man and really want to see where his career goes into the future. And so do we. We hope he gives away more details about his life. He's a really interesting man. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Make sure you comment down below what you thought about this list and let us in on all the facts that you know about Derrick Lewis that we missed. Please like, comment, and subscribe with notifications on. Thanks for watching and take care.